just thank you for being able to be here for our podcast with the Divine Appointments. We've been thinking through these times how to have just nice, natural conversations with people, and it's just always a pleasure for me to talk with you.
Thank you.
And I'm just looking forward to talking today. The basic question that we want to get after is, how is it that God is meeting with you? And that's the basic question we have in Divine Appointments. Just a little introduction. I'm Ken White. I serve as the lead pastor at Forest Park Covenant Church. I thought it might be helpful for those who don't know you, maybe if you want to just introduce yourself for just a little bit.
Oh, okay. Right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just right now.
I'm Laurie Carlson, and I have been a member here at Forest Park since 1993.
93, okay.
I know. Am I old enough?
This is 27 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, some people are younger than 27. Isn't it?
I know. So, yeah, we moved here. My husband was a pastor here for 18 and a half years, and this has been our family.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any family. Well, now all of my kids are grown. We had 3 kids, 2 adopted from Korea, twins, and our son was adopted from Honduras. And they're hither and on now, all out of state and married. So I have enjoyed being a part of the church family and have used my energies and spiritual gifts in children's ministry and in teaching women's Bible studies and in being Russ's wife.
Yeah.
So those have been my ministries here.
Yeah, and I remember the first Sunday, I think, that I was here, maybe the second Sunday, I served as the interim. That started in February in 2019, so I've been here a little under 2 years.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting Russ and you, and I didn't have any images in my head.
No.
And
Did you know Russ's role?
I knew his role. I knew who he
okay.
was, yeah.
Okay.
And I was really, really honored to meet him. But I didn't realize that he was in a wheelchair at the time, and that you rolled him up. And I also didn't realize how tall he was.
Right.
You could see it in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And then we had a couple times together. Went out and visited with you. It's a very profound times for me. Just ways of thinking about church. Like one of the things he said was, walk slowly through the lobby, which
Right.
I wish we could do right now.
Right.
That would be a great thing.
Wouldn't that be a blessing?
Yeah. How long were you guys married?
Would have been 40 years. He died in April
Okay.
of that year, and it would have been 40 years that summer. So.
Yeah. And I know I just want to answer this question. It's been about 18 months. I think we were talking and that he passed away, died on April 4th, 2019. 4th. Yeah, so it's 18 months. How are you doing today?
Today is a relatively good day. It's I think the grief has really been compounded by the amount of time I spend alone since COVID has come, and so there's been lots of emotional battles. I have struggled in the past with clinical depression, and I think I have a good tool chest for dealing with that, medicine as well as other things, and I've tried to pull them all out.
Right.
I added a light box because I grew up in San Diego and sunshine was my lifeblood. So I'm aware of that, and so I do the light box. I started my vitamin D supplements and all this kind of stuff. And I even signed up I'm leading a Bible study, and I even signed up for a second Bible study because I knew how much accountability I need to keep my mind focused. Yeah. And I still have had days where I'm like, why am I a blubbering fool? It's been very challenging for me.
Yeah. I think it's been challenging for a lot of people. You talk about depression, and anybody who's in ministry knows some things about depression in terms of just understanding what it is.
Yeah.
And when I look out at the world, and I was just talking with our superintendent, Garth McGrath, I just said to him, I think everybody's kind of depressed.
Well, I think most people feel this way like in March. I mean, Russ and I used to say we will not make any major decisions in March. Everyone is on the edge. And And here we are. It's only December, and we're all there already.
Yeah, it's
So-
been like an eternal march, hasn't it?
It has.
And the first Safe at Home started in March of
Yeah.
2020.
Right.
And it's kind of continued, and we're going back into
Well,
it.
I think one thing that's been very helpful in helping me to understand why I'm so fatigued and so worn out is I came to understand my depression as God has only created to me to make so many adjustments per day emotionally. And if I have made that many by 9:30 in the morning, you can bet the rest of the day is going to be challenging.
Well, when you say emotional adjustments, what do you mean by
For
that?
instance, you get up, and this was my first real serious bout with it was when I had a 2-year-old and we just moved here. And so, you get up and you thought you were going to have these 2 options of cereal for breakfast, and you find out, that one is completely stale and the child doesn't want the one that works, right? So you have to adjust your thinking a little bit, and then you think, you're going to sit down for breakfast, and then the milk gets spilled, and so you have to adjust your thinking again, clean up the mess, those types of things where you're having to make an adjustment in your expectations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there are so many adjustments. You think you're going to do this.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, last Wednesday, I was planning to go pick up a turkey. And a fresh turkey from someone who had picked it up. No problem. My brother-in-law and I get in the car. I think, I'll just back right out. I see his car behind me. I also see a service vehicle in the driveway next to me in the condo. I am watching the service vehicle. Guess what I hit? Yes, I hit my brother-in-law's car.
Oh.
So then you're going, okay, we can't go get the turkey right now. I need to deal with the car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You plan certain things, but it doesn't always happen. You make a phone call to take care of something, and you can't because this thing is closed. So I have faced a lot of those. Should I do this? Can I volunteer here? Is that taking a risk?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people are facing almost every day. And it's unusual for people. There's nothing actually that they can go to that they normally would go to. They might want to go to a movie or a restaurant or something like that. It's just not there.
Yeah.
And so they're making emotional
It's
adjustments.
all
day.
those adjustments that you make. Are they, any of them, huge? No.
Yeah.
Was it a big deal? I have car insurance. I said to my brother-in-law. But emotionally, I'm going, right.
Yeah. Well, emotional adjustments and our relationship with the Lord are really closely connected. So,
Very
and
much
coming
so.
back to this question we wanted to ask, how do you feel as if God is meeting with you in these days? What kinds of ways are you feeling a divine appointment day in and day out?
My habit is to spend time reading the Bible and praying every day. I actually made that commitment back when my kids were little because I realized I couldn't really manage this by myself very well. And of course, Russ had done a sermon on, spend 10 minutes every day and pretty soon it's a habit, and I thought, well, okay, I'll give it a try. And so that became something I just planned. I might not get anything else done, but at least I did that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that really, God has really used that time in the Word and reading, not only reading the Bible so I can check it off, but reading it and asking myself, what does that say about you? What does that say about God? Do you really believe that? And interacting with it. It's not just reading it, it's really interacting with it and asking, well, what do you think that meant? And what were they dealing with at that time? The people in the original context. And so by doing that, obviously over the years, I've learned some of those skills and tools to help ask those questions. But then when I ask those questions, I then ask myself, how, if you really believe God is love, for instance, today's, in my quiet time, we were discussing living in living in the love of God or living in fear? And I was like, well, of course I love God, but then they associated, she was asking questions, well, if you're anxious or fearful or, whatever, then you're living out of fear. And I'm kind of like, if you reduce everything, the good emotions and everything, I was like, well, I don't think I'm a fearful person. And yet, as I stopped and evaluated that, well, then the option is I should be living in love, joy, and peace. And I'm going, well, I'm not there. I mean, I was on the verge of tears, and because of this whole scenario. And so I was thinking about those questions. And then I also thought about a question you had asked me the other day when I said, I'm struggling with this. And you said, well, have you asked this person? I'm going, well, no, that's awfully direct. No, but you know what I mean? So I think that comment and another comment, God just kind of seemed to bring those comments to the surface of my thinking.
Yeah.
And I just really came to the idea that really I was living more in fear. And I needed, and the scripture I was studying at the time said, God is with you all the time, so you don't need to be afraid, so now get to work. It was like, well, that's part of the problem. I don't know what to do. So then I decided, there's probably some fear there. So again, you see what I'm doing is I'm interacting with the word. I'm asking questions of myself and letting it get a little deeper into me and to my thinking, really.
Yeah, I think that fear is one of the emotions that people can see in us that we can't see in ourselves. Mm-hmm. So when people will say things like, you don't need to be defensive or you don't need to be afraid, my immediate response, of course, is to be defensive and to deny that I'm afraid. And people can see it much more clearly than I can. I've sometimes thought I should have like a levitating mirror. And I thought, no, I don't think I want that.
If you show green, then I realized that there really it wasn't love, it was fear.
Yeah.
Fear of failure, fear of pain.
Yeah.
All sorts of things that, I kind of needed to sit with those words and those questions for a while, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my goodness, that's exactly what's going on.
One of the things I've noticed, because I'm a follower on your Instagram feed, is that you're outside a lot with your dog.
Oh, a lot.
And just curious, is that a place where you feel as if God speaks to you, or is it just more of a place to kind of work things out? Or?
I think sometimes I go outside a lot, not only because I know exercise is good for your emotional health, but also because I like to observe. And I feel like I'm capturing little glimpses of God's work and his design. And those bring me real joy. I take a lot of pictures. I used to say that I took them, for Russ because he couldn't walk with me. And so I'd take pictures and I'd show him these pictures. But I think part of it for me is to try to capture some of those instances where I go, wow, this is beautiful, or this is unusual. Isn't God amazing? So it is in that way, can be kind of a praise time. Yes. But I've also taken pictures in the wintertime when I'm struggling or whatever, and I go, for everyone that thinks winter is a Hallmark movie with clean snow and no runny noses and no gloves and scarves tied up to your eyeballs, I'm going to take these pictures and show them what winter is really like in the Midwest.
Yeah.
The sodden leaves frozen into the snowbanks and, all that. So I think it gives me also, being in nature gives me a real picture of the world. Things are breaking all the time. Trees are always falling down.
That's right.
But out of those dead trees is where I've seen all these fungus.
Yeah, I noticed that you really like to take pictures of fungus with the sea gap, which I really like too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to have names on things that you're seeing.
Right.
Too. So
many which I cannot pronounce.
Yeah. Hey, one last question.
Sure.
It just kind of came into my head. You have been a pastor's wife for a long part of your life. And so you've gone through all these seasons, especially Christmas. And pastors, oftentimes we come to this season and we're like, well, what am I going to preach on this year? Because it's the same message every single time. And then you start, thinking, well, maybe I could give this
What's
message
a fresh look?
From the manger's perspective or something, So,
or from the cow.
From the cow or the sheep. So, as you're thinking about this Christmas, how are you thinking about celebrating the birth of Jesus? Are there certain things that you just do every year that are helpful? Are you doing anything new? Is God meeting you in those?
Well, he does. I have over the years encountered Christmas because being in a pastor's family, we couldn't go home. We couldn't be with our extended family. And I remember a very significant struggle there, saying, and especially after we first moved here, was I just want to be known. I want to be a place where someone knows who I am. And God really used that ache in my heart at a new place to help me recognize that's probably how Mary felt.
Yeah.
I just want to be somewhere where I'm known. If I'm going to struggle, I want to be around people that know me and love me just as I am. So there's been lots of places in the Christmas story where I've been able to identify. This past week when we talked about Zechariah and Elizabeth and their struggle with infertility, I could so identify with that, having dealt with that struggle. So I think I often find in the Christmas story that there is an angle that applies very directly to how I'm feeling. And I think this year our plan was that all of the kids would be home, because every other year they're with me, and then the other years they're with the in-laws. Well, 2 years ago was the last Christmas we spent with Russ, and it was a tough one. He was in the hospital for 4 days, went, by ambulance two nights in a row back to the hospital. So there's a lot of memories associated with Christmas, and I've decided that I'm not going to make traditions the emotional hold for my heart, because otherwise I can't do a lot of the traditions. You know? So I'm even debating whether or not I'll even decorate my house. I realized I decorate my house for other people, to share my home with other people, but to just go through the work, not so much. So if my children cannot come due to COVID restrictions, which appears to be likely, I decided I am going to do something that gets me out. Like, so if I'm going to bake, I'm going to bake and give it away, because then I have to see people. And I like to see people. And, try to make that the emphasis this year. What can I give to other people instead of having people into my house to enjoy it with me? And I think there will be a special joy in that. And I'm planning on there being. And I'm sure I remember one time where I was going to have some young teens in to make cookies. And I thought, wow, what a noble thing, Laurie Carlson. At which point I accidentally hit, I was cleaning off the tablecloth, and I pushed the tablecloth, and all the flour fell on the floor.
Oh my goodness.
Open. The container was open, and there was flour everywhere. So it was like, Lord, if I'm trying to bless others, you should make it easier for me. No, I spent 30, 40 minutes cleaning the dust flour off of everything before these people arrived. So I recognize that even in my well-laid plans, I'll probably have to make a few adjustments. But, I'm going to jump in.
Well, best wishes to you on this Christmas, and may you meet with the Lord this week and in this month.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.